The number one biggest mistake I see people make in fitness is that they think short term. They think, how can I lose these 10 pounds of belly fat in time for my wedding? Or how can I lean up in time for a beach holiday? What's the fastest way to grow muscle? Of course, these desires are conditioned in. People are trying to sell quick fixes and overnight transformations, so it's totally understandable, but it's a mistake. Hey people, my name is John and I'm sharing my fitness journey and knowledge here, and I hope you find it valuable. So it's definitely possible to have short-term success in this way, to lose a bunch of fat or to get quite a bit stronger quickly. But these short-term actions have short-lived results. The very same 10 pounds you just lost will be back in half the time it took you to lose it. Then the next season you'll be starting from the same baseline and have to lose the same 10 pounds again. The rapid muscle you gained by training every day as hard as you could quickly goes away when you burn out and lose interest. You either get stuck in this loop of short-term efforts with long gaps in between, or you just stop altogether. We all know people who say, oh yeah, this year I'm going to stick with it. Yup, this year, this one's going to be different. But it never is, because thinking this year is still thinking too short-term. You just gotta start and then never stop. That's it. This is because fitness is not a short-term game. It's a long-term game. It's your health. It's your life. It's bigger than just looking good for others. It's about improving your capacity to live a good life for the long term. Also, shout out to Naval Ravikant for the long-term game terminology. When you start regarding fitness as a long-term game, several magical things happen. First of all, you start collecting compound interest. Compound interest applies to all long-term games, which is visualized really well in an example from James Clear. In this quite eye-striking graphic, you can see that if you improve by just 1% every day for a whole year, at the end of it, you'll improve by 37 times your original abilities. Of course, adding 1% to your strength every single day for a year is a bit far-fetched, but you can definitely add a percent or two on a weekly basis for a very long time. And that's why it's so important to just keep going. Real transformations that people will actually notice take years. But if you train for 1 month and gain some strength and then get sidetracked for 2 months, then when you start again, you're just building the same strength back again. Instead of starting each day from a slightly higher base, your base never grows, and so you never get far from it. When you're training for the long term, you can also eventually diversify and grow complementary attributes. If you build up your muscle for a few years, now you have a great basis for pushing your max strength, or a good basis to improve your endurance, or your cardio, or your mobility. Each of these things will help the others in subtle ways. And you can't make substantial progress on all of these aspects at once, only in the long term. When you're playing a long-term game, you will one day start to identify with your training. It'll become part of you that no one can take away. The habits will be second nature and will be impervious to the stresses of life and taking time off. Consistency gets easier and easier the longer that you do it, not harder. When you're focused on a short-term game, you have to muster large efforts in order to build momentum. But with loads of momentum already built, you just keep moving. Thinking long-term in terms of fitness just makes sense because you want your life to be long. You can think of fitness as a struggle against aging, a fight against death itself. The difference between a fit 20-year-old and an unfit 20-year-old isn't always that apparent, but the difference between a fit 40-year-old and an unfit one is quite apparent, and the difference between a fit 60-year-old and an unfit one is heart disease and diabetes, or lack thereof, and the difference between a fit 70-year-old and an unfit one is literally life and death. Finally, long-term games permit and require slow and steady progress. You don't have to rush. You could get going now and keep going, but you don't have to worry if you aren't setting PRs every single workout, or your progress isn't as fast as that of your friends. You have time to improve your strategies and routines over time, but the most important ingredients are consistency and time. It's really liberating. You just keep going, and you'll get further than you could have ever imagined, and you'll get further than anyone else who quits. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. Take care and keep training.
Ugh.